Take it away.
We're gonna go with it. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. As Jeff said, I'm Ernie Scheyder. I work for Reuters, where I write about the energy sector broadly, but more specifically critical minerals. So you might have heard about lithium or rare earths or copper in the news lately, and the president loves to talk about them. That has been keeping me pretty busy, so it's what I write about a lot. I joined Reuters in New York a long time ago, 2009, where I was writing about oil and gas. And then I moved to North Dakota to write about the oil and gas industry there. And then I came here to write about Exxon and Chevron. And a few years ago, I switched to write about critical minerals. And I sort of share that to say that we cover a lot of specific things, but we also invest a lot in our people and we move them around, as evidenced by me moving around. I've covered a lot of other things that aren't related to the energy space. I've had a chance to be part of some general news coverage, including some hurricanes, sadly some mass shooting events that as news comes up, some sporting events. I got to cover the Super Bowl here a few years ago. So Reuters really does cover everything, and we consider ourselves the largest news organization in the world. We've got people in more than 200 countries, and we write stories, we take pictures, we take video, we do graphics, we do data analysis, we do deep dive investigative pieces, and we sell our news to organizations. And then we also have our own website, our own app, where we basically connect directly to you, to the consumer. So what I want to do is kind of go through this slide deck. Gives a broad overview of Reuters and what we do, and then talk a little bit about our internships. And if you have any questions, happy to talk at the end about either the internships or just our approach to news gathering and news production at Reuters. Okie doke. So yes, as I mentioned, we've got journalists in more than 200 locations around the world. We've got about 2,600 journalists in those locations. Our goal is to deliver unparalleled international and national news. We do primarily write in English, but we also are producing journalism in 12 other languages that are out there in the world. Our mission is to provide trusted intelligence that powers humans and machines to make smart decisions. We are, as I mentioned, the world's largest multimedia news provider, and so we do and tell really important stories in text, video, as I mentioned, data, graphics, etc. And that fleshes out a little bit more what I was talking about with we sell news to third-party clients as well as produce and sell our own news to consumers. A few years ago during Hurricane Harvey, I was covering it, and I was out early one morning after the hurricane first came through and took a photo of an SUV that had basically fallen into a ditch, but there was about 3 feet of water, so that the SUV was sideways. I took the photo on my iPhone, sent it in to the photo desk, and an hour later it was on the front page of the New York Times website. They're one of our big customers. So we sell photos, videos, etc. And then obviously we have our own app, like I mentioned. We were founded in 1851. Reuters' big claim to fame here in the United States was that we broke the news that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. So we have been around for a very long time. We've broken a lot of other big news too, including the fall of the Berlin Wall, Saddam Hussein's capture, the UK trying to get out of the European Union, etc., etc. Obviously, like you all, we try to be first with news. Scoops are our bread and butter. People pay us to be first in news, especially in business news, but we also really value analysis and insight that comes from deep reporting. We have these things called the trust principles that basically serve as our North Star. And now what are they? They're not just sort of highfalutin corporate speak. They actually come out of an attempt by the British government in the Second World War to take over Reuters, to basically say, we want you to be our government propaganda arm. And at the time, you would make the assumption that, yes, we all want to win the Second World War, but Reuters said no. Reuters said it's not our job. Our job is to report without bias as much as we can, strive for freedom from bias. We're not going to be the arm of any one person or organization, and we're going to spare no expense to report the news, and we're also going to maintain high ethical standards. So that impetus was manifested here in the trust principles, which are still enforced today and pretty much guide everything that we do. So I'm not judged on SEO, I'm not judged on clickbait, I'm judged on what are the best stories that you can be writing, and how are you telling it, how are you sourcing, how are you going out there and giving our clients the best journalism that you can do. And so as someone who's worked at Reuters for a good chunk of time, These are very comforting for me that I know that the organization, the people that run the organization, hold themselves to pretty high standards as well. Now, every time I try to make this play, it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, but this is one of our latest marketing campaigns. Here we go. So this was running on some TV channels.
We tell all sides and take none.
We tell when it happens, as it happens.
Tell of wonder, fear, hope and glory. Tell for those who can't.
Tell big, tell small, tell every detail.
Tell even when they're trying to stop us. Tell from every city, every street, every corner of the world. We go back to the start.
Where there's no bias and no agenda.
To tell the real story.
Yeah, so that's our marketing tagline, the source. You might have seen this commercial on some websites or some TV channels, but that gets a hint at the broad flavor of what we do cover and the locations that we do have. You might have seen a gentleman there in the video with handcuffs. Two of our colleagues were arrested in Myanmar a few years ago just for doing their jobs, and the government held them in prison for more than a year. And Reuters, it was really, really great to see, put on this pretty full-throated campaign to get them out of prison, and they were successfully freed just for doing their job because they reported something the government did not want. So that was really encouraging as their fellow employee. Billions of people read Reuters every single day, which is a bit staggering, but true. We've got 500 TV broadcasters that use our video, 1,600 media customers in 121 countries, 700 publishing clients, many of the top 50 news sites. If you've been on Yahoo News today, you have read a Reuters story, MSN, New York Times, Washington Post, they all use Reuters. We've got almost 40 million unique visitors to Reuters.com, and that number actually needs to be updated because the website keeps getting more and more hits. And then we also have business professionals that use our news on trading platforms, which I'll talk about in a second. The orange is where we have offices, and where we don't have offices, we have stringers. So pretty much every single country in the world, with a few notable exceptions, we are in right now. This might seem like a boring chart, but bear with me. This talks about how we get paid. We don't just have one revenue source, we have multiple revenue sources. And as someone who takes a paycheck from Thomson Reuters, I can tell you this is my favorite slide. It is my favorite slide because we don't rely just on advertising, we don't rely just on subscriptions. We have a pretty diverse revenue base. We sell to lawyers, to tax accountants, we sell to traders, we sell to other media companies like I mentioned, we sell to governments that want news. All of these people buy our news. They don't just buy text, but they also buy video. So if one were to sag or the different parts of the economy were to experience downtimes, we've got others here to basically pick up the slack. And we don't just want to do scoops, which of course are extremely important to us, but we also want to have stories that make a difference. Here are just a few in the past, call it 5 years, that we've done that we consider big things to be proud of. The Myanmar burning series, that was related to the gentleman that was in the handcuffs. That won a Pulitzer Prize, basically detailing the oppression and expulsion of the Muslim Rohingya minority in majority Buddhist Myanmar. It was a groundbreaking series, and it only came about due to detailed beat reporting. So we really, really encourage people to develop a beat that might be in Myanmar's capital, that might be covering crude oil futures here in Houston. We want people to really sink their teeth into a subject matter area and be able to write about it with authority and break scoops on it. There's a few others up there as well. You can see, including, you might have heard about the Johnson & Johnson baby powder scandal. That was something that Reuters broke. So if you've used baby powder from Johnson & Johnson, you're affected by that story. We don't do journalism just to win prizes, but we have won a lot of prizes lately, and that's good for morale, that's good for the newsroom, and that tells us that we are getting recognition among our peers. This probably should be updated because this year we won another Pulitzer. Actually, the ceremony's tomorrow in New York for a story about fentanyl. I'm assuming you all know what fentanyl is. We had a colleague that was wondering why is it so easy to get in the United States. So he ordered this stuff to make fentanyl in the mail, and it showed up at his doorstep. And he didn't actually make fentanyl. I want to be clear about that. But the story was tracing this really simple supply chain to make this extremely deadly drug, and it seems like a really basic idea, but he ran with it and he won a Pulitzer Prize. And so it's that kind of curiosity and investigation that we really want to encourage and do encourage at Reuters. Okay. Early career opportunities. So there are a handful. You might be hearing me talk a lot about beat reporting and think, gosh, there's not a lot of opportunities for me starting out. Not the case. The number one opportunity we have for folks either in college or just out of college is our summer internship program. It is a 12-week paid program. There are opportunities to work directly with top Reuters editors on leading stories. The locations do vary each year. It is a truly global program. So last year we had people in Johannesburg, in New Delhi, in London, in New York, and in Washington, and 2 other cities, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And they weren't just writing stories. Some were writing stories. Others were doing video. Others were doing data analysis or graphics. The location and the type of journalism that you'll be doing does vary each year depending on our needs as an organization. So we will be announcing next week, and I'll be sure to send the information to Jeff, what our summer 2026 program will look like and where it will be and what the topics, whether it be text or video, et cetera, based on those cities. Real quick on, we will have a few in the United States. And if there are programs overseas, international, our one requirement is we don't do visas for internships. So if you want to apply to a job, the internship in London, which London will have a slot this year, you need to have work requirement in the United Kingdom. So, and then we also partner with the National Association of Black Journalists for a journalism fellows program. This is tied to a scholarship that we give through the NABHA for a master's program. And so that is not something you apply for. And if you're interested in that, that's tied in with that master's program, which are at 2 schools, CUNY and I'm drawing a blank on the second one, but in any event, find me afterwards and we can talk a little bit more about that. And then we also have early career opportunities. And again, these are obviously dependent on our business needs at the time, but breaking news teams, breaking news hubs are located all across the world. In the United States, in North America, it's Washington and Ottawa. We also have one in London and Bangalore, India, in Johannesburg, in Singapore, and a few others. And these basically are designed to help us, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., make sure that we're getting that first initial breakout. So if, I don't know, God forbid, there's a mass casualty event at a school in Arizona, we want to be able to tell our clients about that. Or if Elon Musk quits as CEO of Tesla at 4 a.m. in a tweet, we want to make sure that we're first and we're out there. And so these are the kind of things that the breaking news team would do. If you got questions about life at Reuters, please, my door is open. I'm based here in Houston. Hiring editors are open to conversations. If you feel that you've got a lot of skills in covering retail and you've always wanted to cover Walmart, our retail editor would be open, if you can prove to her why you're the best person for the job. And this is a hypothetical, obviously, but if we had a job opening there. We want to have the newsroom that looks like the world that we cover. I showed you that map of all the places we are. We really, really want to encourage people to consider a career in journalism and also to consider Reuters. We are not just a place where you stare at SEC filings for 30 years. We have a very, very diverse career opportunity set, as you've seen by the slide deck. I know historically Reuters has a reputation of being just business news, and that is what I do. But as I was briefly mentioning earlier, I've had the opportunity to cover a lot of other different things. We are growing rapidly into new areas, and we want to encourage more people to consider Reuters as a career. So that's my little presentation there. Any questions? Hi. Sure.
Would this company be considered a freelance or no? Because I've heard businesses that have a similar model that were considered
Yeah, so we do freelancers. Probably the biggest area where we do freelancing is in photography. In fact, we have several freelance photographers here in Houston. So if you see a photo on the Reuters service from Houston, it's probably taken by one of our freelancers. Text, it varies. In the United States, we don't have as many text freelancers just because we have more text reporters on staff here in the country. But places in South America or Africa, we do have a lot more text stringers. Jamaica is a great example right now. We don't have a full-time person there, but obviously Melissa, the hurricane, just barreled through there. So we worked with a network of stringers to ensure that we had coverage. And then we also flew in some visuals colleagues. So it depends on the region, but yes, we do freelancing. Hi.
If I understood correctly, you said that y'all aren't clickbait, y'all aren't SEO. So when it is like a slow news day, y'all go out looking for stories like.
I'm laughing only because I don't actually remember a slow news day. So Jeff doesn't know. I almost canceled on him today because, but I didn't want to cancel on you guys. Yeah, there's always something happening in the world, man. It's like always something. Like I cover critical minerals, like I was mentioning, and it just feels like every day there's, whether it's the trade war or something President Xi or President Trump did, like I'm constantly going. Granted, that's just my experience, but everyone I talk to in our newsroom is slammed. I think you talk to any journalist, whether you're covering the local government or you're covering the White House or you're covering Elon Musk, like there's always something happening, and never a dull moment. And if, knock on wood, you do get a quote unquote slow news day, well then that's an opportunity to, go through your old notes or to basically dig into something that you might not have thought of before, or maybe take the time to, gosh, I've always wanted to write about X, So that would be my general advice, even beyond Reuters, is there's never a quote unquote slow news day in journalism. And if there's not much quote unquote happening, use it as an opportunity to dive into a feature story or an investigative piece or something else. So.
Could you kind of take us through how you approach doing a story?
Sure.
And when you do a story, do you have to produce multiple versions of that for the various platforms, or do you pretty much do the traditional wire story and then other people turn it into the web story?
Yeah. So I think I might start with the last part first. I have this theory that I think is a pretty solid theory, that there's no such thing as a wire service anymore, because every news organization is a wire service. How many of you get push alerts on your phone? That's exactly what Reuters used to do. When we announced Abraham Lincoln was dead, that was the old version of a push alert in the 19th century. We'd send stuff out across a literal wire. Now you get them from the New York Times, you get them from NPR, you get them from the local NPR affiliate here in Houston, the Houston Chronicle, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone is up to the second, in fact, up to the millisecond in some cases. And so when I write a story, I did a story earlier today as a great example. I was at a lithium conference in Arkansas, be jealous, earlier this week, and that story went out today. But I wrote that story is for several quote unquote constituencies, people that read general news, because this is about Arkansas investing a lot in a new part of the economy. I interviewed Governor Sanders, talked to her about it. This story is also for people that want to invest in the lithium space. So it is a business story. People putting a lot of money on the line, including ExxonMobil, which is spending hundreds of millions of dollars here. It's a national security story because the United States doesn't produce hardly any lithium right now. And so I wrote one story, but I made sure to get elements of all of those in there. And then it just went out just before I got in the car to come over here. And that story is on our website right now. People can read it there. It also went out to our trading terminal, so people can, if they want to trade based on any of the stocks in there, they can read that story. But there's a lot in the back end that connects it to all of those places. But I wrote one story that was put out to all of those. So yes, we have to keep our audience in mind, and that's, I know, the perpetual thing you talk about in journalism schools. But I would say in this one, the thinking about my audience happened more at the ideation stage and the news gathering stage. So when I was at this conference, I was conscious of who would want to read the story, and I tailored my reporting as such, if that makes sense. Sure.
I mean, basically, we've talked about this, is knowing who your audience is when
you're
writing a story.
Yeah. And with something as niche as what I write about. I have to be conscious of the fact that you might not know what lithium hydroxide is, but you know that lithium's in your phone. So you need to balance those things. Yeah. Yeah.
We have some question?
This is my other question. So you said that during World War II, the British government basically tried to use Reuters as like propaganda. So I know it's like a different time, but given what's been happening lately with like the climate and all, how does Reuters like combat that, or like combat like governmental influence? And, like,
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So we cover the current White House the way we've covered every administration throughout history. We've covered Pol Pot, we've covered Hitler, we've covered Nicolas Sarkozy, we've covered Queen Elizabeth, and Reuters leadership. I'm not just giving you a line. Reuters leadership has said this. We will cover this current White House the way that we cover every single other administration and every other country's leadership throughout the world and have throughout history. So and so far that has not been just mere conjecture or talking points that actually have. A great example is you might have heard about the Pentagon wanting everyone to sign a form that would basically limit the type of reporting that can be done inside the Pentagon headquarters. Well, Reuters, like many news organizations, refused to sign that. And so we left. We left the building, physically left the building. We no longer have an office there, but that doesn't mean we're not reporting about the Pentagon. Quite the opposite. We are still going to do that because that is our mission. You might have also heard that the White House changed the press pool orientation. And basically, Reuters, the Associated Press, and Bloomberg used to always go on every single trip, and then there would be a rotating pool of print newspaper reporters. The White House has changed that. Now Reuters does not always go on Air Force One with the president or the vice president, et cetera. But Reuters has invested in making sure that if it's a big enough news story, we're going to actually send someone there on commercial flight to make sure that we're covering that. So yes, there might be perceived obstacles to coverage, but we are going to make sure, in accordance with the trust principles, that we are making sure that we are there to cover that, no matter what. Whether if I have to catch a flight to Portland, Oregon, to cover something related to the energy department and lithium, I'll do that if it makes sense for us from a news gathering perspective. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sort of following up to that a little
Sure.
bit too, you talked about the trust principles that you have, but obviously there's an organized effort, by various groups in the White House, to make people think you're fake news. So, how do you combat that? How do you maintain or build trust with your audience?
Yeah, so that's the number one currency that we as journalists have is trust. And so if you take one thing away from this today, I would just say, as you start your journalism careers, just keep that in mind. It's hard to earn trust and very easy to lose it. I'm sure you've talked about Brian Williams, probably, famous news anchor, and then sort of flibbed on whether or not he actually was under fire, and it basically tanked his career. He had decades of hard work to get to the anchor's chair at NBC, and then it was gone. Now that's an extreme example, but we take that trust that our Reuters customers give us, and we take that very seriously. And wherever you end up in your careers, I would encourage you to do the same. At the end of the day, there's a lot of noise out there, but it's our job to sort of cut through that noise and to report without fear or favor, and to report just passionately. And I can truly honestly say that Reuters has never pushed me or cajoled me or said, why don't we look at it this way or that way in order to cow favor with a particular CEO or political figure or et cetera. And if the pressure happens from the other side, if a political figure does try to pressure or a company, which happens quite often actually, Reuters does stand up for its reporters. Hi.
You mentioned that y'all sell to governments. Does it ever happen that maybe that government doesn't like the way the story's written, so they change it a little to make it more in their favor? Or
Oh no, Reuters takes that stuff very seriously. And when I say we sell to governments, we sell to really inside baseball stuff, but ag news for the Department of Agriculture or something like specific like that, or like a great example like legal news. We're talking like really specific stuff. Or it also is sort of the same concept as should the Department of Defense have a subscription to the New York Times? It's the same exact thing. No, I mean, and if they tried to take a story that was 300 words, and they tried to basically cut and paste a sentence in there and said, "Oh, Reuters reported this," we'd be like, "No, we didn't." Here's exactly what we did. So, I mean, yeah, they can play cut and paste in Microsoft Word if they want, but we know what we reported, and we wouldn't change it based on what they in this hypothetical is a customer. So, hi.
I want to get into like film and photography. I actually quite enjoy it. It's like one of my class.
Cool.
Creative class with Professor Robert. I actually really like filming. What opportunities do you offer in that?
Yeah, I mean, if you are really into photography, I would say apply for, I think we will have a photo slot. I don't know exactly what country it will be in, but apply for the photo internship. Yeah, that would be my number one piece of advice to you. And if you feel that you've got a portfolio that you're really passionate about and you think shows your skills, and you want to talk to our photo editor, you'd have to have a really, really good book of visuals in order to even get to that level. But what I would say is, if you're serious about photo or video in any journalism type setting, just continue to build up that book, right? Go to, I don't know, this is hypothetical, like the No Kings rally that was 2 weeks ago. Like, if you were there, take photos, see yourself as sort of like a student. You are a student journalist. And so, you want to basically be able to show potential future employers, whether that's for an internship or a full-time job, that you know how to handle yourself in that kind of situation and have some clips. So that would be my advice to you.
I haven't started portfolio yet. Like, what do you recommend? Like, what do you recommend to get my foot in quickly, as soon as I can?
I will say full-time photo jobs at Reuters are extremely hard to get. People wait like 10 years to get their foot in the door. And then once people get them, they don't want to leave. So I will caveat it with that. What I would say is a portfolio, just like a package of text clips, it just starts with one photo after another. So just, if you were in this hypothetical, the No Kings rally, and you took a photo that you thought was unique and showed, I don't know, somebody holding a sign in a cool way, there you go. There's one photo for your book, and you might be at, I don't know, a sporting event here on campus, and somebody took a three-pointer, and you took a great photo of the ball midair. Again, a hypothetical, but yeah, just building up the book that way. That's the best way to do it. And then get plugged in with professional organizations. Like, there's plenty of photography organizations out there, especially for early career talent. The Eddie Adams Workshop is one of them. There's a few others. Just get involved with those and check in with those. The Society for Professional Journalists is a great organization. I'm sure there must be a chapter here, right, on campus? If not, there should be.
Sure there is, yeah. And then there's also NBPA, the National Press Photographers.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So all of these professional groups, definitely connect with them. Many of them have early career chapters or opportunities or information. So it's just getting yourself out there, talking to more people. And I would say broadly for everyone, you're going to get a lot of no's. That's in any industry, but especially in journalism. Don't let that get you down. You get a lot of no's. I think I was rejected from 19 internships when I was getting out of school. You just got to push through, and someplace will click.
A lot of numbers.
Can be, yes.
How do they begin the process for applying for next year's internship?
Yeah, so next month, which is 2 days from now, I'm going to forward you, Jeff, the application, and please forward it to your class. And that will have the locations and the topic that it'll be. So it might be, I don't know, I'm not the top of my head, but probably will be finance in New York, text reporting, and it might be live pages in London, I think. But in any event, if there's something you're passionate about and interested in, apply. That's what I would say. And even if you're not open or interested in something next summer, you can go to the Reuters HR site and you can join our talent pool. And this is a way for you to upload your resume and say, hey, like I have these skill sets, I'd like to be considered. You all obviously are in college right now, so you're early career. But I would, that's one way I would stay abreast of that. So when that comes out next month, please do apply. The application does close in, I want to say, early December. So be thinking kind of now about a cover letter that can really sell yourself. Don't make the cover letter more than a page. People won't read it. One page is tight. Say why you're the best. Don't say how much you love Reuters. We already know we're amazing. So tell us why you're amazing. And really, really sell yourself. I've read a lot of these letters, and I can tell you that a lot of people think they have to ingratiate themselves with Reuters by flattering us. Don't do that. Tell us what you want to do. If one of the opportunities is hypothetically covering finance in New York, tell us like why you want to cover Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan and why you think you are the person to do that, or why you should be covering the White House as an intern for next summer, if that's an opportunity. Make sure you know who you're writing about. I once got an application letter that said, "Dear CBS News." That person went to the bottom of the pile before I read it even further.
You'd be surprised. I mean, I've in my professional career, I've hired hundreds and hundreds of people, and yeah, they'll like have the wrong call letters for the TV station,
Yeah.
the wrong city, or they don't use my name.
Yeah.
They didn't bother looking
Yeah.
it up. So yeah.
We got one earlier this week that said, I decided to apply at Reuters because I saw it on the AP website. That's literally that's what somebody wrote. So, hi, yes.
Okay, so adding on to the application, how do we follow the company and or you if we want to maintain the connection?
So I'm not going to answer that because I'm going to say a good journalist will know the answer to that question. So I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. So, but my name is impronounceable, and so therefore very easy to find online. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you can barely see it up there because my magic marker wasn't working, but your name is written on that bottom right board there. And, last question for me.
Sure.
Something we talk about in all our classes in the university is, dealing with how do you deal with this. Do you see AI creeping into what you guys do? And
Good question.
Do you use it for anything, or
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it just the devil?
Yeah. So Reuters is part of Thomson Reuters, as I mentioned earlier in the slide deck, our parent company that does a lot of other things. So news is just a small sliver of what we do as a company. Thomson Reuters has invested heavily in AI. The company believes it is the future, and many other people agree with them. In the news division, we are integrating it very heavily. AI doesn't write stories for us, but it does a lot of value add. It will suggest bullets. It will suggest headlines. It will offer synopses of long documents. If I've got a 200-page document I don't have time to read, I can plug it into AI and it'll spit out the synopsis. I mean, this is obviously what AI does. It's not unique to Reuters. So yes, the answer is yes. We are asked to use it more and more every single day. It does not write stories for us. That's a hard line we have drawn. But if there is content like a headline or a bullet point or something else that AI generates, a human has to always review it before it gets published. So that is where we are right now. But yes, we are being asked to use it, and frankly, required to use it more and more in our news gathering. I know it seems like a brave new world, but the way that I think about it sometimes is, Jeff, you might remember this. I do. Looking stuff up before Google. You'd have to go to a library and go, leaf through a billion books and, how do I confirm this one stat? And then this thing called a search engine came around in the late 1990s called Google, and everyone was like, whoa. And so it's just a new way of changing news gathering, and that's how I approach it. And I know there's questions about plagiarism and accuracy and all that other stuff, but it can be a tool, and that's how I'm trying to look at AI. Yeah. We have these big contract with Microsoft, so is it Copilot is Microsoft? Yeah, so we use Copilot. Yeah.
All right, Hank, any more questions? Going once? Going twice? Thank you, Ernie.
Okay, thank you guys. Real quick, let me